now when it comes to stablecoins, so many of stablecoin issuers in the market, so many of companies trying to now tokenize gold as well. I think Paxos has been there for so long already. And I wanted to understand from your side, when it comes to the competition, where does Paxos stand today?
Paxos Crypto Brokerage is the infrastructure behind crypto trading for major companies. Platforms like PayPal use Paxos to safely integrate crypto directly into their products.
Well, if we zoom out for a moment, these are just two asset classes that represent the early stages of mass tokenization. And mass tokenization is really just a database or infrastructure upgrade for the financial system. Today and historically, the financial system is run on a bunch of siloed, closed databases that require kind of many intermediaries between one another, and the leads and lags and costs that come along with moving assets amongst those different intermediaries and different data closed systems. The blockchain, of course, is an open system, and that has enormous benefits in sort of global access and speed, in the speed of innovation, and also in compliance and transparency in many cases. And so Paxos has always kind of set out to enable tokenization, and we believe in a world where all financial assets will eventually end up on the blockchain.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Voice of Web3 powered by CoinGape Media. At Voice of Web3, we try our level best to connect you with genuine experts, genuine leaders in the crypto industry, and we all together aim to provide you as much as transparent information as possible. We understand crypto so far has been a world of speculation. It has been a world of, let's say, hype-driven media, hype-driven market. But guys, it is changing quite. It is changing slowly and slowly. And now we are seeing more and more use cases of crypto, more and more mainstream attention to crypto. To that end, today we have someone very special for you guys. And he's somebody who can definitely help us understand where this all new wave of crypto in terms of DATs, stable coins, ETFs, all these things, where this is headed and how it is going to impact this industry as a whole. So guys, today we have Walter Hessert, Head of Strategy at Paxos, with us on the podcast. Guys, Paxos, as you already know, is one of the leading regulated blockchain infrastructure companies in the world. At Paxos, Walter is leading corporate development. He's also leading the growth initiatives, and he has been very closely involved in building major digital asset partnerships with companies you may have heard, like PayPal, MasterCard, and Interactive Brokers. Even before joining Paxos, Walter has been an entrepreneur in the technology space. He was the co-founder and chief product officer of Derby Games. It was a regulated company that operated across dozens of jurisdictions and partnered with global platforms, including Facebook and PayPal. So Walter is right now basically handling the strategy part of Paxos, and he's the right person to help us understand where this new wave of crypto, where this new wave of Web3 is going. Walter, welcome to the show. Welcome to Voice of Web3.
Thanks so much for having me on.
How are you?
Doing great today. How are you guys?
We are also doing great. Of course, a lot is happening in terms of geopolitics. A lot is happening, which is not under, I'm sure, our control. And so, yeah, it has been a humbling week for everyone, I guess, in the world. So, Walter, before I even begin, I'm sure everybody has heard about Paxos. Everyone has heard about Paxos doing so much when it comes to tokenization, doing so much when it comes to stable coins, and doing so much when it comes to blockchain as a whole. And it would be a good opportunity to actually, help people understand that what Paxos is doing, what your role is at Paxos, so that we can set the context of this whole discussion, moving ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me on. Paxos is a infrastructure company that has been building a platform to enable large enterprises to power and offer blockchain solutions for their end users. And those can be anything from custody, trading, to tokenization, to payments. And across those suite of products, we are really proud to have had the opportunity to power a lot of the largest enterprises that have come into the space over the course of the last 8 plus years. Since we started to see the earliest stages of enterprise adoption, which have accelerated at an enormous kind of rate to today, where virtually every company in the world has a blockchain strategy, is offering a product today, or is integrating products to offer to their end users or to power their business. Some of those customers that we power are firms like MasterCard, PayPal, Stripe, Interactive Brokers. And these firms, again, use us in a lot of different ways to power these types of solutions. And the reason they come to Paxos is because we've been doing this for a long time. We've only focused at the infrastructure layer. So we're not out there serving end retail customers and doing infrastructure as a side business. We're only infrastructure. We're only built to enable enterprises to be able to participate in this new financial system. The other reason is been a really important differentiation for Paxos as we look back over the past 10 years is how we're regulated. And so going all the way back to 2015, we sought out prudential oversight, which is really the highest level of regulatory oversight into all of the activities that we do, and is on par with other financial services regulatory oversight. And so we're regulated like the firms, many of the firms that we serve. We have the right type of oversight so that they can offer products in a trustworthy way. And they know that we're always focused on serving them and making them successful at that infrastructure layer. My role at Paxos, I've been at the company for 8 years. I oversee the go-to-market function, so all of our BD, marketing and comms and sales. And then I also oversee the policy function.
So, I remember very clearly, Paxos was one of the first companies to basically come out with the stablecoin initiative with PayPal, PYUSD. They were also the very first company, among the first companies to come out with this digital gold, basically. So the kind of wave we are seeing now when it comes to stablecoins, so many of stablecoin issuers in the market, so many of companies trying to now tokenize gold as well. I think Paxos has been there for so long already. And I wanted to understand from your side, when it comes to the competition, where does Paxos stand today? Is Paxos kind of coming out with more initiatives, or are these the two main stablecoin and gold, digital gold initiatives that we have?
Well, if we zoom out for a moment, these are just two asset classes that represent the early stages of mass tokenization. And mass tokenization is really just a database or infrastructure upgrade for the financial system. Today, and historically, the financial system is run on a bunch of siloed, closed databases that require kind of many intermediaries between one another, and the leads and lags and costs that come along with moving assets amongst those different intermediaries and different data closed systems. The blockchain, of course, is an open system, and that has enormous benefits in sort of global access and speed, in the speed of innovation, and also in compliance and transparency in many cases. And so Paxos has always kind of set out to enable tokenization, and we believe in a world where all financial assets will eventually end up on the blockchain, which is to say they've been tokenized. The places where that's been happening the most to date are, of course, in fiat currencies. And those are stablecoins, as we all well know today. And that's a place where Paxos is one of the early pioneers and also one of the scaled players in the market today. We've issued about $200 billion of US dollars on a gross basis, which we've been doing over the last 8 years. And so there's only a couple other players in the market that have the scale that Paxos does. But it's not just about tokenized dollars. When we think about our tokenization capabilities, it really crosses all assets. And so we tokenize dollars, and we also, as you mentioned, tokenize gold. Gold is another product that we think will be early in the kind of migration or the wave of tokenization from an asset class perspective, because it's high stock to flow, because of the way it's traded, because of the demand for allocated and the transparency that you can get through tokenization. And so we launched our tokenized gold product called Pax Gold back in 2019. like all of the assets that we issue, is fully regulated. So it has oversight in all aspects of the management and issuance of that token by a globally respected and reputable regulator. Today, it's overseen by the federal bank regulator in the US, the OCC. And that asset is the largest regulated gold token in the market. It's about $2.5 billion. It's traded across all of the largest exchanges, very kind of like fast growing trading volumes on a daily basis. And the important thing there is, tying it all back together, is because you have the regulatory oversight, just like with our tokenized dollars, you've always been able to be certain that the underlying dollar is there. It's protected from any risk or bankruptcy from a Paxos entity because of the way it is regulated. And it's always available for the customer that holds the token to come and redeem for the underlying. And so we made that sort of foundational promise in our stablecoins. And we have the same in our gold token. Our stablecoins, we issue PYUSD today, which is, I believe, the third largest stablecoin in the market, fully regulated by the OCC. We also issue USDG, the global dollar, which is almost at $2 billion and growing quickly.
So, I mean, in December last year, I guess, Paxos team was at Solana breakpoint as well, and the CEO chaired kind of helped everybody to understand the relationship with banks, relationship with the authorities and regulators right now that Paxos has. And it was a very delightful kind of a conversation that he had on the stage, where he clearly mentioned that how Paxos is quite different when it comes to the ongoing debate where we are now discussing basically who is going to be the stable coin of future. I mean, are the private companies still allowed to issue these stable coins, or is it going to be banks? And this is where I wanted to kind of get your mind as well, that right now it is being seen as a competition now, that native crypto companies, which have been in the crypto space for 10 to 12 years, and the banks right now seem to be quite different when it comes to that, how the yield part of it, how the management part of stable coins needs to be managed. And I would definitely like to know your views as well, that how do you see these both aspects? On one side, crypto native companies issuing stable coins, and on the other side, these highly regulated banking companies coming into play.
It's a great question. Well, I think first off, in the US, now issuers of stablecoins, or at least in 2 years from now, all issuers of stablecoins will be highly regulated firms. That is a standard that Paxos set in the market back in 2018. And now with the Genius Act, any other firm that's issuing stablecoins legally in the United States is going to have to meet that standard that we set, that is in line with the Genius Act. And so these are firms that are going to be the issuers that are regulated prudentially, that are regulated by the same regulators that regulate banks, et cetera. So it's not any longer this sort of world of cowboys and unregulated companies versus banks. The issuers of stable coins that are doing it on a legal, fully regulated way, they will be issued a lot like banks, but they're different business models. Ultimately, issuers are not they're not like banks, because we're not changing, kind of credit maturity. We're not creating money. We're just holding assets on behalf of end customers in a custodial manner. And so I think that to get to your the question, which is, will it be, kind of non-bank issuers, or will it be bank issuers? We don't think it's a zero-sum game. I think that the way we think about stable coins is, they are both a rails for moving money, and they're also a store of value. And outside of the US, the store of value use case is very strong, because there's a bunch of markets around the world where you can't access dollars, where now you can in a world of stable coins. I think in the money movement case, which is something we're very excited about, you basically have just a new rails for moving dollars. It's not a new asset. It's really just new rails for moving dollars. And I think, there will be stable coins in that use case that are powered by the large banks. The banks have an enormous role to play. They offer all kinds of financial services. They have strong brands of trust. They have huge customer bases. They're large incumbent businesses in this space already, and they're going to play a huge part. I think a good kind of a set of comps to look at are the set of money moving rails today. Some are owned by the banks, like ACH or RTP, are owned by bank consortiums. Zelle is another example, and these are really successful money movement rails. And then there are others that are not owned by the banks, like the card networks. Interestingly, the card networks were originally owned by the banks, created by the banks, and now they're public companies, no longer owned by exclusively by the banks. And so I think that I think we're going to see both. I think we're going to see banks become huge participants in the ecosystem, both in the use of stable coins, the distribution of stable coins, and also in the issuance of stable coins. I also think you're going to have fully regulated non-bank issuers like we have today, like Paxos, that are going to be large players in the long run.
So, I mean, if today you have an account in any country and you're holding, let's say, dollars in that account, that bank essentially decides that what the interest rate is going to be, what are they going to give you as an interest when it comes to savings on your dollars, right? I mean, does this relationship change when it comes to, for example, if today I'm holding, let's say, TYUSD in my wallet, who is actually giving me this yield? I mean, do I still need to be affiliated with a bank, make an account there, or I can just rely on Paxos or PYUSD to give me the APY or ARR that I get?
I think when we think of stable coins as a store of value, a lot of the places where stable coins are being held in that use case are markets where people don't have any access to dollars. And so it's not about yield today. It's not about rewards today. It's simply about, hey, I have access to a US dollar in a way that I didn't before. And that can add that's a real financial freedom of access that didn't exist for the majority of the globe before the introduction of stablecoins and the proliferation that we're seeing today. And so I think it is, first and foremost about access in places where that didn't exist before.
Yeah, I mean, this year, if you see, I mean, Genius Act plus, of course, Mr. Trump coming to presidency. These were the two events that quite moved the market back to US. And we are hearing a lot. We are in UAE, so we hear a lot that companies are now as much and more clarity they're getting from US. They're trying to move back their companies to US again. And I don't really think people still understand the impact of Genius Act and now upcoming this crypto market structure bill that is right now being debated in the Congress. I mean, people don't yet understand the power that it has. And I wanted to kind of take your help to help people understand, first of all, that if in case crypto market structure bill or the Clarity Act, if it gets passed, what does it mean for companies like Paxos or stablecoin issuers, and why is it such a big deal?
Yeah, I think that when we think about legislation in the stablecoin side, while there may be aspects of the market structure bill, as you referenced, Clarity, that may touch on stablecoin, we as an industry of issuers and users of stablecoin and broader financial services and fintech were really excited and focused on the Genius Act, which passed, which gave federal legislation and sort of a clear framework for legal issuance of stablecoins in the US. That's really the unlock. I mean, we really have it with Genius, which is in implementation phase now. And that has created, I think, what will be a much safer stablecoin ecosystem. Not all of the issuers and even some of the largest issuers in the market operated with the same oversight. Many of them operated with no oversight, but didn't operate in any case with the same oversight as Paxos. And so we both see the power of this technology, and in this case, the use of this technology with fiat currency in the form of stablecoins But we at Paxos, I think, have always seen the value in clear regulatory frameworks that allow the industry to grow in a way that is safe for the enterprises and end consumers that are using these stablecoins. Genius Act was really a huge milestone and a huge inflection point in the kind of growth of stablecoin ecosystem. And I think when we look back, we'll say, what was the main inflection point? And it will be the passing of Genius that allowed us to move from sort of early adoption into true mass adoption globally.
So another good point you mentioned was the immediate use case of stablecoin that we are seeing is this money movement rails, whereby you can access dollars, you can access various currencies in various locations where it might not be accessible today, where you might not be able to actually, first of all, even access it. And to this end, this money movement across the globe right now is dominated by banks. It is dominated by SWIFT. And slowly we are seeing the stablecoin market to pick it up in that space as well. And I wanted to take your help again to understand for our viewers as well that what are your views on this debate that is going on, that stablecoins finally can be something so big that it might even replace the SWIFT network, SWIFT system that we have, which is definitely slow, which is definitely not efficient. We all know that. We have used stablecoins now, and we know how efficient stablecoins are. So where do you see, first of all, do you really think tomorrow we can see global rails running on stablecoins and they actually replacing SWIFT? And to that end, second question is, where do banks play a role in all of this? If let's say Paxos or maybe Tether, these companies are issuing these stable coins, they are managing these transactions globally, where do banks actually come into this system?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's already competing with global systems. It's in its very early phases, but you can see the trends and the data backing that competition. We think that's good competition. We don't necessarily think that the end state is completely replacing, X incumbent system. I think what you see is a couple of things. Like at the end of the day, blockchain is just a technology. It's not a business or it's really this sort of like general purpose technology. And so I think you see all of the incumbent systems already starting to leverage and integrate blockchain technology, whether you're the card networks, whether you're Swift, they're figuring out ways that they can leverage this technology as well. And so those businesses that figure out how to leverage it very well into their legacy businesses are going to survive and are going to thrive as the world continues to evolve and the market changes. That's no different than any other technology. Of course, new technology brings new entrants that are sort of native to that technology or building, sort of blockchain first in this case. And those new players are going to compete with the legacy providers. What Paxos's business is often helping the legacy enterprises and providers be able to leverage this new technology to compete. That is really where we've sat in the market. If you think about how we've empowered PayPal to launch digital wallets across all of PayPal and Venmo, or to power PYUSD, their regulated stablecoin, or whether it's to power all of the trading inside of Interactive Brokers around their brokerage globally. So Paxos has really been at the infrastructure layer, enabling these already scaled businesses to compete in this market. So we definitely don't think they're going away, but we definitely think that the open systems, and in this case, blockchain technology and specifically stablecoins, will continue to take market share and will ultimately be the primary rails that are used in the future. But there'll be rails that are used by all different kinds of businesses, including some that were using, other types of legacy or antiquated rails prior. I think that the place for the banks is very broad. I mean, I think banks are going to come together. There's been, sort of headlines in the news of banks coming together as consortiums like they've done in the past to be able to launch kind of stablecoin or blockchain products. So I think we're going to see banks and groups of banks come together and compete on issuance. Banks, of course, are going to be able to provide orchestration, be able to accept and send stablecoin for their clients. So being able to just leverage the rails of blockchain across their platform. But banks are enormous, the large banks, enormous institutions that have enormously, sort of very powerful relationships and trust in the market, broad customer relationships. They are going to continue to innovate. This is new technology. So just like Swift and the other sort of payment infrastructure and other types of FMI, they also need to start to leverage this new technology so they can continue to meet the market and meet their customers with their in their needs.
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly said, that today it is more about that which company is providing me the heavily regulated infrastructure so that I don't have to worry about. If I am a company, I have a healthy balance sheet, and I believe that my consumers, my customers will gain if I launch a stable coin. I guess they can take help from Paxos in that way. They can reach out to your team, and you can, just like PayPal, you can help those companies to basically release or launch these stable coins. Now, for somebody like me who has been in the crypto space for last 8-9 years, and we can consider ourselves retails, we are retail, let's say, right? And whenever we hear these things, that okay, so Wall Street is coming for you guys. Wall Street is gonna, kind of, occupy the whole of crypto, and we are seeing it this year as well. I mean, we are seeing a lot of institutionalization helping in crypto. You talk to anybody, they want the top ladder customers right now. Everybody wants HNIs. They want to work with top companies. They want to help them basically get to these rails. So what happens to all these innovations throughout the year we have seen, throughout the, years we have seen in crypto? For example, what happens to these so many number of cryptocurrencies that we have seen? I mean, right now the market seems to be limited to only 5 or 6 crypto projects, and those projects which are actually, let's say, having some form of narrative in the sense of institutional adoption. So for example, be it Solana, be it Ethereum, be it, let's say, Sui, and these kind of blockchains. But what happens to all these blockchains, like 10,000 other blockchains we have when we go to CoinMarketCap? I mean, do you see still a scope for them, or do you really think that this is all about regulation now?
I think it's about serving up, building products that the market, needs and the market wants. And so to the extent that all those projects were pure speculation, and then they have to deliver on value to be able to endure and become lasting businesses or projects. And I think there are many that will, and there are many that won't. I think what is, if I look back at my last 10 years in the blockchain Web3 space, you just have so much enthusiasm, so much creativity, so much entrepreneurship and innovation. And, the markets were fueled by that sort of exuberance, and speculation came with that, rightfully, because there's, so much like human potential to create things of value. There have been things that created that have enormous value. Solana is an example. It's an incredible ecosystem and network to build products that were never before possible. Stablecoins are an example, and Bitcoin itself is, the first example. And so I think that if we kind of like look backwards, we're going to say, okay, there was a lot of speculation, and those projects or businesses or those technologies that actually created real value, those endure.
So for example, I mean, if we talk about a space particular to right now, DeFi. So DeFi still is not yet regulated. There is still a lot of debate around it. Again, I guess much because of, again, the involvement of banks when it comes to helping people raise their finances, helping people to basically help with these interest rates and everything. So do you see still some play left for DeFi, or do you still see it part of speculation at the moment?
I think there is there's very bullish on DeFi. I think you're going to see massive growth in DeFi. I don't, I think it's hard to see a world where we don't see massive expansion of DeFi. I think we're going to see it in a couple of different areas. I think one, you'll see sort of unregulated DeFi, which is maybe sort of like true to some of the ethos of DeFi. But then there's also a lot of value that comes from DeFi, which is not at odds with being regulated. And so there'll be sort of regulated or compliant DeFi that will be available for sort of mass institutional adoption. And those markets will continue to exist. And again, it will be about creating value and delivering something of value over time to the market that determines that. We as Paxos have always taken the path that regulation really unlocks full global adoption and societal wide change in the end. And that is kind of been the underpinning of our approach, which is go out from day one and seek the highest level of regulatory oversight, because our strategy has always been to be infrastructure for enterprises. And so we've had to be regulated because enterprises need to be able to look at us and know that we provide the sort of same compliance and trustworthiness and reliability that they promise their customers, and regulatory frameworks are one way to achieve that. And so Paxos's approach has always been to adhere to the highest levels of regulatory oversight. If we were a retail business in crypto, that probably wasn't the best strategy. And, maybe it was, kind of stay outside of the regulated markets to serve, some niche retail, or start unregulated and then come into regulation. And so it really just depends on sort of the business model and the products that are being delivered. For us, it's always been about being regulatory first, but that, of course, is not the case for a vast majority of the early blockchain ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, another key thing we have observed in 2025 was finally I should say, intersection of geopolitics and crypto. Finally, we are seeing announcements about crypto from politicians. We are seeing involvement from politicians actively when it comes to passing these laws. We are also seeing some crypto native professionals actually running for Congress seats. We're actually seeing, so one of them was on our podcast recently as well. Khurram Dara, he's running for AG right now, New York AG. So we are seeing people like him basically coming direct to politics as well. And to this end, one company particularly has been rising a lot. And of course, it is supported by Mr. Trump. It is supported by his family as well. And WLFI, it has been expanding at a scale that we are seeing a kind of a discussion, debate opening up, that is it really the right thing that is happening in the space, that we are seeing majority of the use cases being right now, being developed by WLFI. And of course, they do have support, politics support they need. So, I mean, we wanted to get your views as well, that how do you see this playing out? Are we seeing actually politically supported companies now coming into picture, and they also kind of becoming a competitor to existing crypto native companies? So WLFI has been, of course, one of the outliers, I would say.
My thinking on this is basically, this is one of the benefits we get from clear legislation, which we at Paxos have been proponent and actively engaged in for a decade now, is can we get clear, consistent regulation within which the industry can operate. The benefit of Genius, as an example of that, is that it sets clear standards for all market participants involved in stablecoin. And so every issuer, whether you are, a Republican or a Democrat, or every issuer meets the same standards, is the same regardless of politics. So that's one of the benefits we get from good, clear legislation.
So, so I also wanted to kind of understand from you that we are also seeing this is one side of the politics, where actually we are seeing active politicians kind of supporting companies, choosing their companies, and they can then, of course, they can kind of choose the pie of the market. Another part we are seeing is that countries which are heavily sanctioned, we have seen, of course, we have seen crypto adoption being kind of increasing there as well. And we have seen Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, these kind of markets actually helping there a lot of these countries. So when it comes to stable coins particularly, or even tokenization space as we see it, do you really see that other countries will also adopt the same kind of approach followed by US, or do you see developing nations taking more time than US, let's say, for example?
Sorry, the question is,
If we keep US aside, do we also see globally adoption also kind of kicking off in 2026, 2027? Because other countries seem to be in a waiting mode right now. If we leave Mika, if we come to Southeast Asia, or we even go to other countries of Europe, we are not seeing that level of enthusiasm yet. They are still kind of in a waiting mode.
Yeah, I think I don't know of a market in the world where the cryptocurrency and in some that involves stable coins as well is not a part of the national policy agenda, or at the very least discussion. I'd be hard pressed to think of one. I'm sure there are some, but the vast majority are, thinking about this issue. And I think that, the U.S. wasn't first, right, Jed Mika, as you mentioned. You have, China's been kind of experimenting with digital RMB. I think they're intending, as it's been reported, they're intending to launch a yield-bearing RMB. And so I think this is a global political priority, I think, across the board. And of course, the U.S. Moving and creating clear legislation as one of the global superpowers creates another major catalyst for other regulatory regimes around the world. But the U.S. wasn't first, and there's still many more to go. It's just continuing to pick up momentum.
So Walter, we are down to our last two questions, and the first of that is, as head of strategy, what are your objectives? What are your goals for 2026 at Paxos? I mean, top three goals at Paxos for 2026.
Oh, great question. So one is to support the financial institutions that are moving into the space across crypto trading and stablecoin issuance and stablecoin access, making sure that we are, sort of a trusted partner to these large banks that are coming into the space. We have, been that partner to a lot of other industries, whether broker dealers or fintechs, neobanks, and we're playing the same role with the banks. And it's something that we take, a lot of pride in, but we also take very seriously. So that's number one. Number two is scale our stablecoin issuance. We're one of the leaders in the market. We've been doing this for nearly a decade with regulatory oversight. And we've issued hundreds of billions of dollars of stablecoins. Today, we issue stablecoins for some of the largest companies in the world across payments, trading, et cetera. And so continuing to provide trusted issuance infrastructure across the ecosystem. And three is to continue to expand and grow other tokenization as tokenization moves beyond just dollars and starts to scale into commodities and securities. And that, of course, is Pax Gold. How can we not just grow Pax Gold, but similar to our stablecoin, how can we be the trusted infrastructure for issuing tokenized gold and then moving on to other assets beyond that?
So second question is something we received from one of our viewers. So they're asking us, is there any chance Paxos will also go for an IPO?
Eventually, certainly.
All right. So I think people can hold their horses and wait for Paxos to come out. And I'm sure, I mean, given the scale of the company, given the growth you are having, I'm sure it will be soon. Walter, thanks a lot. I know you are a busy person. I know your time is limited, but thanks a lot for shedding light to some of these topics today. Thanks for helping us know Paxos a bit more better. And I'm sure people will, once they hear you, they will research a bit more about Paxos. And of course, from our B2B community, I'm sure people may reach out to you guys even to understand your services better. So thanks a lot, Walter, for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a great one.